That night, the rain poured heavily. The wind howled, adding to the eerie atmosphere on the empty streets. Farid, an ambulance driver with 15 years of experience, received an emergency call to pick up a patient in a remote village about 50 kilometers from the hospital. Farid, you need to get to Pranama village immediately. There's been a serious accident there. They need medical assistance urgently. The stern voice of the hospital operator crackled over the radio. Farid grabbed his jacket, donned his cap, and hurried out to the waiting ambulance. He quickly started the engine and drove off through the torrential rain. Lightning and thunder lit up the night sky, as if warning of impending doom. The road to Pranama village was not easy. The rocky and slippery path forced Farid to drive with extra caution. Occasionally, he glanced back to ensure the medical equipment was secure. The headlights cut through the darkness, casting strange shadows on the trees lining the road. After an exhausting hour-long drive, Farid finally arrived at the village. Strangely, it appeared more deserted than usual. Not a single resident was seen outside. Farid parked the ambulance in front of an old, dilapidated house. According to the information, the accident victim was inside that house. Cautiously, Farid exited the ambulance and knocked on the door. There was no response. He tried the door, which was unlocked. As he entered, a cold draft greeted him. The house felt extremely cold and silent. Only the creaking wood whispered softly. Inside the house, Farid saw a staircase leading to the second floor. He ascended the stairs with a sense of foreboding. At the top, he found a room with the door slightly ajar. Farid pushed the door open and found a man lying on the floor, covered in blood. "Sir, can you hear me?" Farid asked as he approached. The man groaned softly, indicating he was still alive. Farid quickly performed a preliminary examination and prepared a stretcher to transport him to the ambulance. As Farid lifted the man, he felt something odd. The man's body was unnaturally cold. Ignoring his unease, Farid hurriedly carried the man to the ambulance. After loading the victim into the vehicle, he immediately contacted the hospital to report the victim's condition and estimated arrival time. On the way back to the hospital, Farid felt something was wrong. The victim, who should have been unconscious, suddenly opened his eyes and stared at Farid with a vacant gaze. The victim's eyes were pitch black, devoid of any whites. Farid tried to ignore it and focused on the road ahead. Suddenly, the ambulance radio turned on by itself, emitting an ear-splitting static noise. Amidst the static, Farid could hear faint, incomprehensible whispers. His anxiety grew, but he continued to drive as fast as possible towards the hospital. A few kilometers from the hospital, the victim suddenly let out a horrifying scream. Startled, Farid nearly lost control of the ambulance. He pulled over to check on the victim. When he opened the back door, the man had disappeared. Panicked, Farid searched around the ambulance but found no trace of the man. The rain continued to pour, adding to the tension. Farid returned to the ambulance and tried to contact the hospital, but both the radio and his phone were dead-eye in the darkness and silence of the night. Farid felt someone's presence behind him. He turned around and saw the man standing there with pitch-black eyes and a sinister smile. Before Farid could react, the man vanished into thin air. Terrified and confused, Farid knew he had to get back to the hospital. He drove the ambulance at high speed, hoping to reach safety soon. Upon arriving at the hospital, Farid recounted the incident to his colleagues, but no one believed him. They assumed he was hallucinating from exhaustion. That night continued to haunt Farid. Every time he took on a night shift, he remembered the events in Pranama village, the heavy rain, the mysterious man, and the persistent fear. Farid decided to investigate further about the village. After some research, he discovered a shocking truth. Pranama village had long been abandoned by its residents due to frequent terrifying supernatural occurrences. The house where he picked up the victim was a notorious haunted house, and the man he transported had died years ago in a tragic accident. Farid realized he had experienced something beyond rational explanation. Nevertheless, he continued his job as an ambulance driver, always ready to face any possibility, including the most frightening ones.